defending the free market, and making the moral case for capitalism. The Justin Moore Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Justin Moore Show, where we make sense of what's going on in this crazy, insane, out of control world. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I was scouring the internet and, scrolling through a bunch of news stories and so forth. And I come across this one, and it was fake news at its finest. You can't make this stuff up, like with all the heat that United has taken. And I've told you guys on last week's show, I dedicated the whole episode talking about that story. And actually, when I got done with it, I realized, crap, I still missed out on some points I could have made talking about the story, about property rights and say if someone's being an unruly person at your establishment, you can remove them from your property, right? United, that's their airplane. They can remove someone who's being unruly. So the question is, was that passenger, that's David Dow, was he being unruly? Was he being crazy? Because, they drug him. He went out the first time voluntarily, and then he comes back. And I think at that point, who knows what type of fuss he created. So I really don't know. It seems like that David Dow really escalated things, and so they could have removed him. Now it just looks bad the way it did, where he was bloody, being drug out. That's horrible PR, I tell you what. But the same thing is, like, say for a bar. Someone's being really drunk. They have the right to not serve you any more drinks. Or if you're being a jerk, you're starting fights with everybody, they can kick you out of the bar. Or anything. Back in the day when I went to Geyser Park, which is a little park that had it was a little entertainment place where they had laser tag. They had the little cars, little race cars you drive around. They had bumper boats. Well, on the racetrack, if they say no bumping other cars, which you can't help it. You just want to bump people. Do the pit maneuver on people. It's fun. So when the guy who's supposed to be watching over to make sure nobody's bumping, you just kind of do a quick little, love tap, and you get a guy to spin around, But if they catch you doing that, they might give you one warning, and if you do it again, they're going to kick you out. So when it's their property, they can do that. Yes, you're paying to be there, but if you're not acting within the rules that establishment, that business provides, or that by signing that you're agreeing to, like, say, purchase a ticket through United or wherever it is, you're agreeing to their certain standards. And so you can definitely apply that to United's situation, which I didn't really mention that on last week's show. Because, there was just so many things to get to, I kind of forgot to bring up a few points. But anyway, I was talking about, this fake news story where it comes out about United, with United taking all this heat. Okay, so this is a fake news story, but a lot of people, I'm sure they're sharing it on Facebook thinking it was real. Like, oh my gosh, United, they are out of control. This is what it says right here from the news story, the fake news story. During a flight from New York City to Chicago, violence erupted after a flight attendant assaulted a 7-month-old baby boy. This comes just hours after a man was dragged off an overbooked United Airlines flight when he refused to get off the plane. He was pulled out of his seat. Okay, yada, yada, yada. The baby, whose name has not been released, was left with a welt mark across his face due to the assault. Eyewitnesses say the little boy was screaming for about 38 minutes straight, and the parents were asked by the flight attendant several times to quote, quiet that annoying ass baby down, end quote. After the fourth attempt to get the parents to comply, the flight attendant erupted into a rage, grabbing the baby from the mother's arms and slapping him in the face. It took several passengers to subdue the United Airlines employee. The flight attendant was restrained in the back of the plane until a pilot could make an emergency. The flight attendant was restrained in the back of the plane until the pilot could make an emergency landing in Missouri. United Airlines released a statement saying the employee acted in a way that does not represent their company and has been fired. The little boy is said to be in stable condition with no life-threatening injuries. The parents say they are reaching out to an attorney, refusing to give any further statements. Okay, so if you guys just got into my show late for some reason, yes, that is a fake news story, but I'm sure a bunch of people are sharing it on Facebook. Just like I remember when I was with my ex-girlfriend, she'd always be telling me, oh, Justin, did you hear that Bill Cosby died? Or it would be one person after another, all these celebrities thinking that they were dead. Oh yeah, Betty White, she died. And it turns out, no, it's a bunch of fake news from Facebook. Well, this story was completely fake news. Someone writing the United bashing session that's been taking place the last few weeks now, ever since that incident with David Dow. And no, this is all completely fake. This was all made up. And this is coming from now8news.com. Just completely made up. It's hard to read that with a straight face. So, now let's getting that out of the way. That is fake news, but I actually have a real news story. Now, this is not from United. I know. I thought only the bad airline was United. No. I'm sure nobody out there has really heard of this story because, people are still bashing United. But with American Airlines. And this is a story, and again, this is another story with a video that accompanies the story. So basically, there's a lady, she's got a baby. She has 2 twins, and she's going in the plane, and she asked the one flight attendant. She's like, "Hey, I've got my stroller. It really collapses down nice and small. Is it okay if I put it in one of these overhead compartment bins?" And the flight attendant's like, "Yeah, if you can find some room, please go ahead and do it. Otherwise, we'll gate check it and we'll put it underneath the plane." And like for me, when I'm loading baggage under the plane, I do load quite a few strollers in there, That's where typically people put them. But this lady's looking around, trying to find an area. And what happens next is there's this one guy who works for American Airlines. I'm pretty sure he's the gate agent, so he's the guy checking people in as they board the plane. And he goes in and he confronts that lady. This is on the plane. And he's like, "Hey, we're going to gate check that stroller. We don't put strollers in the cabin of the airplane. That goes underneath the plane. We don't do that." And the lady's like, "No, but this one flight attendant, she said I could do it. So I'm just looking to see if there's room." And so the guy grabs the stroller from this woman who's holding a baby in her hands. And as he's trying to pull the stroller out of the lady's hands, I think the lady ends up getting hit across the face with the metal stroller and nearly misses hitting the baby. And after this incident, now this is where the video takes place, you can find online, where you see the lady, after she just got hit, you see her crying and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he did that. Well, then what happens is that guy that took the stroller out of her hands, he comes back on the plane and he starts raising holy hell. And there's one guy who stood up, who's in his seat, like he was just like in first class or just behind first class. And he steps up and he goes to confront that guy who did that. He's like, "Dude, you have no right. You don't be doing that." I can't remember what the guy said, but the airline's employee, he's basically telling this guy, this customer who's on the plane, he's like, "You want to fight? You want to go? Let's go." And he's saying all this stuff. It's like, oh my gosh. I'm sure this guy has to be fired now. As you watch that guy on the video, he's a total little punk. And just being a total jerk, like he's trying to prove something to this guy. It's like, wow, oh my gosh. I hope that guy got fired. Now see, this is another incident with the airlines, but this is one rogue employee. Are they all like that little short bald dude? Just a total jerk? No, they're not. But are there some of them out there? Yes. Are there some bartenders out there who are total jerks? Yes, there are. You're going to find jerks anywhere you are in life, but especially when you can capture it on video and it's with some big company, it'll probably go viral. So that's the difference. So as I start off all my shows now with this crazy, insane, out of control world, well, here we are, American Airlines, and just some guy just going off. And just to add to the madness out here, now we have Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly is fired from Fox News. Bill O'Reilly, he's like the one name you would associate with Fox News. Before Megyn Kelly's show, and now she left Fox. I don't know if she left Fox because she sees that it's a sinking ship or whatever it is, especially with Bill O'Reilly gone. Fox is going down the tubes fast. But with Bill O'Reilly, look, I've picked on Bill a little bit here on my show. I do not like Bill O'Reilly at all. He's one of those guys, if I saw him in public, I would turn around and I would walk the other way. He seems like a total jerk. And actually, I was going to mention this on my show before I ever heard anything about any of these sexual harassment claims with Bill O'Reilly. I've always gotten that vibe from Bill O'Reilly that, he's, hooking up with interns, has a relationship with interns, whatever it is. Now, I don't know if that's the case or not, but now what's come out from this news story that sexual harassment, which, to be fair to Bill O'Reilly, which I don't really want to do because I don't care for the guy, because he just seems like a total a-hole. But, sexual harassment claims, guys, you could go into the office and you could tell a lady, like, "Hey, I like what you did with your hair." Say the woman just got a haircut or whatever it is, or, put some little red streaks in it or whatever, and she could take offense to that and like, oh my gosh, he's hitting on me, the sexual harassment claim, then they go to HR. Uh, so it's any little thing could set the right woman off. And especially if you're a bad looking dude and you start giving compliments to women, you are screwed. Now, if you're a good looking guy, you can get away with it. Oh yeah, oh my gosh, this guy, he's complimenting me. Oh, I can't get enough of this. But no, you get an ugly guy and he starts giving out some compliments to some women in the workplace or talking at the water cooler. Man, HR is going to take that guy out. But now with Bill O'Reilly, okay, yes, he's a guy who's been basically the king of cable news for years and years. I know it was like 8-9 years running on Fox News, whatever it was. I'm sure it was longer than that. No, it's probably, 8, 9, 10 years where he had the number one cable show on Fox. And now he's gone because of sexual harassment claims. Which, it does not surprise me at all. He seems like a total guy who's, always trying to, I don't know. I guess I won't go down that rabbit hole. But I don't know. Am I the only one who sees that? You get that vibe from Bill O'Reilly that he's like that? Oh man, I remember. I used to watch Bill O'Reilly's show almost religiously. This was back in 2008 when Barack Obama was running against John McCain, who was going to be the 44th president of the United States. And I was watching Bill O'Reilly, and he'd always have this woman on, like, I don't know, once a week. And I think she was a woman from Russia, and the little segment Bill O'Reilly did with her was called Hot with Words. This girl was very good looking. She wore very revealing shirts, showing the goods, and Bill, he sucked it up. Bill O'Reilly, that's the sort of things he always did on his show. I would, stuff like that. He'd always be doing little segments talking about the teacher-student sex cases and that sort of thing, and get the little girls to bicker back and forth over that. And Bill O'Reilly would talk about how disgusted he is with it, that sort of thing. It was all the little things. It was always, all the women he had on his show, like 99% of them were always blondes. It was just, you always notice that almost all of his guests were women. And then I specifically remember, like, he would do a segment talking about, is it safe to do spring break over in Mexico, with the drug cartels and all that. And they would loop this video clip of a bunch of these women. Okay, there's guys too, but they're in bikinis and they're in a pool going up and down sort of thing, and just kept looping the same image, the same little video, the same little short clip over and over and over again in the background, like for eye candy for, the dirty old men watching or whatever, So this doesn't surprise me with Bill O'Reilly at all. Now, do I think that he did this? Yeah, I do. But do I think some of it is probably, I guess you could say, fake news? That some women are just trying to get some money, just trying to get a settlement? Yeah, there's probably some of that too, but at the end of the day, I bet you Bill O'Reilly, he's been trying to do plenty of advances on women. That's my guess. That's just my feeling, because I don't want to get sued here. I have no idea if that's true or not. That's just what I can read from that guy, and I like to think I'm pretty good at reading people. But anyway, and with Bill O'Reilly, you can tell, you guys remember watching that little clip of Bill O'Reilly from years and years ago when he was working for, what the hell company was it? It was like CBS, was it? And you guys can look this up. What the hell? Bill O'Reilly, type in, I'm sure this will pop up. Bill O'Reilly will do it live. And you see Bill, he just went into a break, and he's going to he's basically trying to record something before the break comes back, to end the show. And he keeps screwing up. And he just gets pissed off. He uses the F word. And he just, we'll do it live. And then he throws a pen across the room. He's pissed off. He stands up. He's jerking his head. Oh my gosh. You can just tell Bill O'Reilly is a hothead. I couldn't imagine working with the guy. He really seems like the biggest jerk ever. Obviously you can tell Bill O'Reilly's full of himself, that he probably sits back. I bet you his DVR is completely full of all of his shows. And he goes back and he watches his old shows. That's all he does, I bet. No question about it. So Bill O'Reilly's just a really self-absorbed guy, and typically self-absorbed guys, well, you're all about, pleasure, pleasing yourself, so forth. And interns seem to fit into the mix. But okay, so again, that's all my little speculation. I have no inside knowledge at all. So take what I just said for what it's worth. So anyway, guys, let's move on. There's just so much crazy stuff going on there. Bill O'Reilly, airline stories, and you have Donald Trump basically saying in a Wall Street Journal interview from April 12th that he's like, hey, look, what the heck did he say here? This is what he says, quote, I think our dollar is getting too strong, and partially that's my fault because people have confidence in me. Yeah, that was a real quote from Donald Trump from this interview with the Wall Street Journal. And so Donald Trump, he wants to see a weaker dollar. This is the currency wars thing. I've talked about this on my show going back a few years now. How we are in a currency war. How it's kind of a race to the bottom. Now, right now, the dollar, you look back these past 5 years, the dollar has strengthened. It's strengthened by 26%. Now, in the same time frame, you go back the last 5 years, gold's been underperforming. Well, that's because it trades inversely to a dollar. As the dollar is getting stronger, well, then gold and silver, precious metals, they're going to get weaker. And I've talked about this on earlier shows, earlier this year, where I think that the dollar trend, this dollar bull market we've been in for the past 5 years, I think this is going to reverse. And we will, over the course of next year or two, we will retest those bottoms that we hit back in 2011 with the dollar. And at that time, when the dollar was hitting, when the dollar index was around 71, right now it's over 100, but it was at 71, that's when we had gold, approaching $2,000 an ounce. So in that time frame, if that happens, if I'm correct about this, that the dollar trade will reverse, well then, for those of you who have invested in precious metals, you own the physical metals, as everyone else is losing, you will be gaining. And so I still stick by that. Now, it's been wrong these last few years, but I guess we will see, won't we? Now, just a little bit more from this interview with Donald Trump. He also said this, just to kind of go along with the strong dollar comment. It's very, very hard to compete when you have a strong dollar and other countries are devaluing their currency, Trump told the Journal. Okay, I guess what he's talking about there, if you are a manufacturing business, yeah, you're right. It makes it harder for you to compete when you have a stronger dollar because it's your goods that you're trying to sell as a manufacturer, they're less attractive to foreign countries because your currency is so strong compared to theirs. And so in their countries, they can produce it cheaper. But at the end of the day, aren't we all consumers? And how many goods that you buy come from foreign countries, come from China, Taiwan, wherever? Well, if you have a weak dollar like Trump wants, that's going to make all these foreign goods you buy, it's going to make them a lot more expensive. So you now have less money to go spend on other goods. You can now buy less goods with your money. And at the end of the day, aren't we always, when we're making money, when you are working for a paycheck at work, you're working so you can buy goods that you value. Well, if those goods that you want to buy are more expensive, well, now you are less wealthy. You're worse off than you were before. And now there's other ways you can address the problem with making our goods less attractive compared to other countries, and that's by lowering the barriers to entry in our country, lessening regulations, which we have plenty of regulations we should be getting rid of here in the United States, but we're not. I mean, Donald Trump's saying that, yeah, he wants to eliminate some regulations, but so far it's just all talk, and I haven't seen it yet. And then we can tie all this in with, on the campaign trail, how, Donald Trump, he's going really hard on, Janet Yellen and saying that, oh yeah, he's not going to reappoint her. She's purposely keeping interest rates low to help Hillary Clinton, and it's how political Janet Yellen is being. Well, now in this interview that Trump did with the Wall Street Journal, President Trump admitted that, hey, look, he kind of likes low interest rates, and also he kind of flip-flopped, saying that he's open to maybe reappointing Janet Yellen as the Federal Reserve Chairman. He's not counting her out yet. So who knows? Now maybe with that, it's kind of hard to say what his angle is. I think it's pretty smart for him to do that, because say if he really doesn't want to appoint her, but if Janet Yellen thinks that, oh my gosh, I have a chance I could still remain Fed chairman, maybe she won't go about her aggressive changes in interest rates like she plans on doing. Like, look, they just raised interest rates in March. Usually the Federal Reserve, the last 2 times they've raised interest rates in the last 10 years has been in December, when they were saying, oh yeah, we're going to raise interest rates 4 times this year, and they only raised it once. now March, they already raised interest rates once. And so maybe that will help slow Janet Yellen down there. So it could be a tactical move. And it could work. Yeah, I mean, it does look like Janet Yellen, I would guess still, that she'll raise interest rates twice this year. So one more time. So yeah, it's kind of hard to say with Trump what his angle is. Well, whether he's really serious about reappointing her or he's just saying that to get what he wants. You know, you always want people to have hope to remain there, right? Because then you can use that to your advantage. And then what I came across this to tie this in with the Federal Reserve. The former Treasury Secretary under Bill Clinton, Robert Rubin, he wrote a piece in the New York Times from April 12th. And he's making the point that, before Donald Trump, the Federal Reserve wasn't political at all. It was completely independent. But it's Donald Trump. He's the one that's making the Federal Reserve more political by saying that he's not going to appoint Janet Yellen because she's a Democrat. Just look, I just have 2 paragraphs I want to read from Robert Rubin just to show you guys his angle here. And it's like, oh, come on, Robert. And he says, an independent Federal Reserve led by governors who are committed to pursuing its dual mandate of price stability and full employment, as well as effective regulation, and who make decisions based on facts and analysis, is critically important to our economy, the well-being of the people, and the market credibility of Fed policy making. Well, I got news for this guy. I don't know where he's been living, but the Federal Reserve has always been political. John Tamny always makes the point that presidents get the dollar they want. That's because the Federal Reserve chairman, they work with the president. That's how it's worked. Ronald Reagan and Paul Volcker working together. All these different Fed chairmen, there's proof, and I've actually done an episode on this talking about it, how Arthur Burns and Nixon working together. So there's all of this. So I don't know what he's talking about. And then actually to go right along with this, and Robert Rubin continues and says later on in the piece, the Fed is not always right. No one can be on these matters, but it is staffed by, and the board consists of, immensely capable professionals who work with absolutely intellectual integrity. That's why the Fed's work is highly and widely respected in the United States and around the world. This credibility keeps market interest rates lower and liquidity greater. Okay, well, first off, this guy's pointing out that, hey, look, I guess this Robert Rubin, he's a Democrat anyway, so it makes sense why he's saying all this, because he really thinks that central planning works. So if you can get the smartest people together, you can tweak things and you can run society. So, from his perspective, it completely makes sense why he's saying everything he's saying there. But then he makes a point there at the end, the credibility keeps market interest rates lower and liquidity greater. Okay, I guess that's true. That's part of the reason why the dollar hasn't collapsed yet, because if everyone thought like me, the dollar would have collapsed a long time ago. But because people still have some faith in the system and the strength in the dollar, it's like, oh yeah, the dollar can't collapse. People still work for dollars because they know someone else will accept them. But there's going to come a point when that will not be so. Venezuela, look what's going on there. People thought things were great until, look at the last few years in Venezuela, things have been hell. And now you got people in Venezuela, they're breaking into zoos, eating zoo animals, well, I don't know, do they have giraffes in the zoo over there? Well, they're eating anteaters, they're eating flamingos, and I've talked about this on the last episodes, they're eating cats and dogs. People are desperate over there. That's because their currency is collapsing because of massive inflation, because people have lost faith in their currency. That can happen here too. But there's a lot of people who think like Robert Rubin, former Treasury Secretary under Clinton, that they still think everything's fine. And with gold, not the gold's, under $1,300 an ounce. When gold really starts to take off, that's going to start raising panic levels in people. But until that time, yeah, everything looks like, we're stable. Economy is kind of coming back here, And so for right now, it's kind of the calm before the storm. But it just seems like you look at all these news stories, it's like there's a slow buildup here where we're getting to that point where it's all going to come unraveling. It's like your cat grabbing the toilet paper roll and just pulling it and pulling it and pull it. And, the closer you get to the end of the roll, the faster it goes, that sort of thing. It just kind of feels like we're just getting close to that point that we've, here on the libertarian angle, we've been anticipating a collapse. a massive economic collapse greater than what we saw in 2008. And that's why I've always done on the show too. You know, you need to prepare yourself because when this one comes, it's going to wipe out a lot of people. People are going to be blindsided by this. It's like, how are you blindsided by this? Where have you been these last, 10 years? I mean, there's been some of us that wanted to understand, okay, what the heck's going on here? Trying to understand it, reading books on economics and how things work. And so that, because we don't want to be dragged down, but a lot of people will be. And for you people out there who are listening to this show right now, we will get through this just fine. And we're going to have to help our family and friends, people who are still clueless to this. Because it's going to be really nasty. Now, does that mean we're going to be eating flamingos? I really hope not. But who knows? It's going to be a matter of degree how bad it gets. The more people who are prepared, well, the less bad it's going to be. But there's a lot of people out there who are not prepared. How many people out there, if you go ask them, how many people have anything money that they actually have, which most people don't have money in the bank anyway. But for people that do have money in the bank, they just have it in dollars, right? Well, by you doing that, you think, oh, I got a nice little buffer. Say you got $50,000 in the bank. Oh, a nice little buffer will get me by, maybe a year or whatever, living expenses, or longer than that, whatever it is. Well, if you have all your assets, your investable assets in dollars, what you are doing there is you are putting all your eggs in one basket. Now, in investing, people always like to talk about one of the keys to success with a portfolio is diversification. Well, by you putting all your money in just dollars, if the dollar collapses or it's severely devalued, you're in a lot of trouble. All that money you thought you had that you could use to weather the storm, you may find out it's not going to be enough. So anyway, guys, that is all I have for you on today's show. You guys can go to my website, go to justinmooreshow.com or spelled M-O-H-R. Catch up on old episodes there. Click on my little Amazon link there, my little widget, and I get a small commission back on all the goods you buy. And that's a great way to help me out on my show here. Sign up for Tom Woods Liberty Classroom through the little link I have of Tom Woods there. And man, those are just some great ways to help me out so I can keep getting the message out week after week. So I have to tell you guys, it's getting harder and harder to do this show. When I'm, working a lot, balancing a few jobs, that sort of thing. But no, please don't get me wrong here. I'm not complaining. I chose to do this, and I'm happy I'm doing it. And so, guys, with that said, I'll talk with all you guys next week, and I'm looking forward to it. This is Justin Moore, signing off.